Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Axiom's Retail Response webinar. So excited to have you guys join us today. I'm Robin Merritt. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Strategy, and I will be your host for the day, along with two other gentlemen that will be joining me. Nick Brown, who is one of our sales executives from Australia for Axsium, will be with us. We also are excited because we have Andrew Myers from WorkJam. He's the Vice President of APAC Digital Workplace Strategy. And we, again, can't tell you how excited it is to have him sit in with us this morning. So we'll tell you a little bit about Retail Response. And Retail Response is a website that we put together starting at mid-March, end of March, like everybody else started to do things, right? So Retail Response is a great place to go for sharing information, a collaboration of information that what's happening to everyone in the here and now. So I've been open and now I'm looking to regain some productivity standards. I've been closed and now I have to open, and what do those new standards look like and how do I get ready for them, forecasting and scheduling and communicating. So we've put together a lot of information that we've heard from our customers around the globe, and you'll find some great blogs. We also have a really exciting link to what we're calling the COVID-19 regulations. Now, it's only a starting point, but at least for different countries, you can log into it and see some of the changes that are being made, or at least the updates that are there. So love to have you guys join us there. Now, today, we also really would like for you to be involved in the webinar. And you do that by, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you probably see some different functions. One of them is chat. Please chat with us, ask us questions so we can incorporate those into our speaking points today and help to generate some ideas together. So whatever you guys need to hear, we can talk about. Today, specifically, we're talking about mobility and the workforce. Communication, productivity, shift swapping, all those things that we know are impacting you right now. Whether you were deemed essential and you've been open and you've been just looking for a ton of people to come to work, you're reopening in this three-step opening phase. There's just so many different parts of it right now that mobility play a very, very key part in. So with that, I'd like to introduce you, as I said, to my fellow cohorts here. So Nick Brown, you can see him on the screen, and Andrew Myers. So Nick, let's do this. Let's start it out by asking you this question, which is basically, you've been talking to customers, you've been talking to our partners, you've been talking to a lot of folks because you've been at home and you've got some time on your hands. So with that, what's the impact that you're hearing, or basically what's everyone saying, and what are we hearing the customers say right now in this phase, or as they're moving through or the various phases that's impacting them right now?
Yeah, thanks, Robin, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here, and thanks again to Andrew for joining us on this webinar this morning. So I guess the short answer is we're hearing a mixed bag. Every organisation across the board here is, of course, thinking about reopening and the steps involved in that. Some are taking a slow and steady approach, and I guess that's just caused by numerous factors, their industry that they're in, the location, any government restrictions, etc. Some are opening very short staff, so particularly in head office and support staff, trying to, I guess, keep costs down as much as possible. But some are getting on the front foot, being very proactive, trying to develop best practice processes and an approach to ensure that all of their employees and therefore customers are going to be safe and engaged when their stores reopen. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about that over the next half an hour, but there's definitely some steps that organisations are putting into place now to make the reopening as seamless and as effective as possible.
I think that's a great point about everyone's opening at a different place. I mean, we saw it in North America. We're seeing it now in Australia, where you could be in the same state, the same area, but one particular city might have a little bit of a different ordinance, or they might have been impacted differently with COVID-19. So they might open differently than across the way at another retailer. And that's what's also interesting as a retailer, you're trying to figure out all of the different the guidelines and implementing those at all these different places that you're trying to open your stores. So I know this is a very interesting time. I know that what we see now, we won't see in 6 months or 12 months. It might look different. And it's all going to grow out of just trying different things. In one of our webinars, if you guys happen to go onto the retailresponse.com webpage, you'll see we spent some time talking about how to even figure out when you open, what's the square footage you need to give per person. And when you have that per person and you add in employees, how many customers does that actually mean? So there's a lot of math going on that I didn't think I needed to use when I was going to be a consultant, but I guess I do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's a lot of uncertainty. I think that's what sticks out for me. There's uncertainty for organisations, for their employees, the right approach to take. And I know Andrew and I will talk a little bit about that and some ways to navigate through that uncertainty.
Yes. So let's do that. So Nick, why don't I turn this over and you and Andrew take it away?
Thank you. So, Andrew, I guess first question, with your prior experience in large retailer operations, how did you leverage mobility prior to a pandemic and what were your priorities?
Yeah, thanks, Nick, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Robin. Look, very interesting. During my time through retail, there would not been a lot of innovation in this space. You'd go into the back office of the store or the lunchroom or team room, and you'd see lots of notices pinned up on walls. There'd be paper schedules pinned up there, and and communication really in an ad hoc manner. And it was up to the employees to try and work out what was current information and what was not. So, what I was certainly looking for was ways that we could automate and transform the operations to be a lot more agile, move to a digital platform, and of course, interact with our employees in a digital sense. Everything else in their lives is digital, being that with family, being that with friends. However, as an employer, we needed to build a digital relationship with our employees. So that was my focus, and that was where we certainly came across WorkJam platform and digital platform, and really transformed the operations and the way that we engaged our employees. And I think when you look at what's happened now with the pandemic, businesses that have moved to that and are moving into that space are certainly the ones that are going to benefit coming out of the pandemic.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just makes you wonder how before a product like WorkJam and even existed, how organisations would have tackled such a huge issue during a pandemic with reopening, communication, updating policies, and all the other things that the application can provide. I just can't even imagine how they would have handled that going back 5 or 10 years, for example.
Yeah, no, look, I'd certainly experienced some things in my time in retail, whether that was, bushfires or cyclones or floods, and the difficulties those times, put on an organisation to be able to stay in touch with our employees. And more importantly, probably the employee's ability to stay in touch with the employer was often very difficult as well. So, having now moved into the pandemic and COVID, I would imagine for businesses that didn't have a digital platform, it was extremely difficult to stay in touch with employees, particularly in those businesses where, employees were stood down and businesses were closed.
Yeah, definitely. I think just the fact that everyone is remote at the moment, it seems, is that's a big challenge in itself, isn't it? And that communication, that constant communication, not just a kind of a text message every now and then or an email that may or may not be seen, is crucial, because as I touched on in the intro, the uncertainty just around the whole situation at the moment, even though we're coming out of it, it seems, and heading towards a bit more of a new normal, there's still a lot of uncertainty around, and you can speak to some employees of an organisation and they'll tell you what they think, and then others will tell you what they think, and they could be two completely different answers, and that can have huge consequences in terms of shifts and productivity and engagement. So a lot to think about there. Okay, so the next question. So we've touched on the fact that organisations are in different stages of reopening. How are you in your current role helping organisations leverage a mobile strategy? As we said, since customers are in different stages of opening across the country, and are all in different places, if you like, in the COVID-19 life cycle.
Yeah, look, it's been a really interesting couple of months with our customers, and we have customers like Woolworths who are an essential service who have had to remain open, and I'll talk about them and some of the opportunities that they've leveraged with the digital platform. And then we also have customers like Village Cinema, where an entire business has closed down and stood down their employees. So what we've seen is with the businesses that have remained open, a really agile approach to communication, being open, increasing the levels of communication in a really concise manner. And the benefits of a digital platform is that it enables the employees to have one place to go to get that information. They're not having to go to WhatsApp or Facebook or emails or conference calls. It enables the employee to be able to quickly receive clear communication, in a lot of cases from the leadership, which from a leadership perspective of an organisation, to have the ability to know that your message as a leader is being received by all the employees in a timely manner with concise and clear information provides a real transparent and open business. Likewise, for businesses that have closed, we've seen businesses leverage the platform, such as WorkJam, to be, really staying connected with their employees and also supporting their employees almost as a family. Providing information around JobKeeper, providing information about what's happening in the organisation. Keeping them connected, having social activity via the digital platform to make sure that employees remain engaged, and more importantly, are going to be ready when those businesses reopen. Because as we've seen with businesses that have remained open and businesses that are closed, is the significant amount of processes that have changed over the course of the last couple of months through the pandemic. Social distancing, cleaning regimes, the connection, the employees need to operate differently with customers. Businesses have had to change hundreds of processes. Being able to communicate that to employees on a digital platform like WorkJam, with direct communication or training, and also being able to receive confirmation that the message has been received or the training has been completed, has been a real benefit for those businesses that are using platforms, particularly WorkJam.
Yeah, no, there are a couple of really good points there. Sorry, Robin.
I was just going to ask Andrew, and from what we've been working with you guys on and what we've seen, is that this isn't when I think about all the things that are coming at the frontline workforce now with changes and what I have to do in a practice of just engaging with customers when we do open, and all the new the rules and regulations that are coming out. This doesn't have to be, quote, one more thing that's really hard or difficult to do, right? We've seen that we've been able to have very quick conversions to getting employees being able to communicate very quickly with each other, uploading videos and all the other things. It doesn't have to be seen as hard to do, right?
Well, what we're seeing is a real shift to micro learning and the ability to create a small video to let employees know what the change is about, why the change, and actually show them, what is required via a video is a lot more powerful than receiving, a piece of paper or, with a few pictures on it. So the use of video content on a digital platform, we've seen our customers really leverage that, particularly through these times in being able to get the message across to employees what's required. What I also think is really, powerful as well as the respect for employees. The ability for employees to be able to ask questions in a two-way, transparent manner. Ask the questions of the leadership of, why are we doing this, or how do we need to do this, and also providing ideas to the leadership of the organisation on how to handle the changes that this has made. So, it's been a really, really beneficial for both employers and employees to have a digital platform like WorkJam. That's
great. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Andrew, just picking up on a couple of those points, there's so much, we could go into this for hours, I'm sure, but just having that uncertainty when you're going back to work, as you mentioned, about what are the new processes and policies in place, and without a platform to communicate that, people could literally be returning to work and unsure of what to do on their first day back. And again, that just creates more uncertainty, more doubt, bit of fear, asking colleagues who may be giving the wrong information even though they're trying their best. So I just think having that streamlined and having one direct message across the board just eliminates all of that. and just gets everyone on board doing the right thing from day one, going back to work. And I think that's obviously really important for any organisation, no matter what industry they're in.
No, and I think that's right. Whether you're an office-based employee, things have changed. We've seen, businesses leverage WorkJam to digitally show employees how they need to enter the office building. The limitations that are required in lifts now, and then the open plan environment of a building, support office is going to be different in the way that people work and interact. So I think, that ability to not just, I know we're very focused on frontline employees, but, also for office-based employees to be able to receive that communication in their environment as they return to, a head office as such is also, very, very informative for them and also reassuring. And, it is going to be very different. We're hearing that businesses are, operating in different teams. So potentially, the colleagues that you used to work with alongside every day, you're not seeing them. And, if you do return to the office, then there's a rotation and, that is all being communicated on a digital platform like WorkJam.
Yeah, and just the time saving as well of it all, as you touched on before, instead of one person communicating with their manager, maybe over a private text message or an email and getting the response, all of their colleagues don't have that same information then if they're still using that outdated process and way of doing things. So having that open communication on an application such as a WorkJam means the manager, the executive team can answer one question and answer it to everyone across the board. And that saves on obviously 50 people or 100 people who are all going to be thinking the same thing, asking that question and then each getting an individual response. So purely just for the time saving, when you think there must be hundreds of questions being asked on a daily basis around this, because things are changing, as we know, with every government announcement and everything like that. It's a huge time saver as well for the leadership team to be able to do that.
Well, I think there's a level of as a leader of an organisation, what used to keep me awake was knowing that has every employee received the right message. What a platform like WorkJam allows is for the latest information to be available. You're not referencing something that was emailed that is been outdated a couple of days later because the government has changed the way of a policy. So a digital platform like WorkJam enables as a leader of an organisation to know that your employees are getting the most up-to-date information. It's agile, it's flexible. It has the speed at which you can very easily communicate to employees, and again for employees to know that they're getting the latest information firsthand is really, really powerful for an organisation to move forward. Not just after the pandemic, but it's a strategic advantage to have a digital platform and leverage mobility and flexibility for employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on to the next question there. So a big part of what we're hearing about now, I'm sure it comes up in every conversation you're having, is around flexibility for employees. We're moving to that next stage, that reopening. A lot of schools haven't gone back. A lot of year levels at school haven't gone back. Still a lot of learning at home, homeschooling, requiring a lot of flexibility for employees to be able to juggle that balance. So I guess the question is, as employers are moving to that next phase, how can they provide their employees with that new need for flexibility moving forward?
Yeah, look, I think flexibility is, and I know, it is a strategic advantage. It is what employees are looking for. It's a value proposition to become an employer of choice. And, I think there is an advantage for office-based employees. And, we've certainly challenged the norm of working from home over the last couple of months. I think from an office environment, it will be a lot more acceptable for people to work from home. In some cases, it's a lot more productive. However, for frontline employees, whether that be in healthcare, retail, distribution, that ability to have flexibility is not always there. But what a digital platform does, it allows self-service, it allows the employee to see their shifts and also, see other shifts that are available. And with WorkJam, it's not just a shift within the store that they're currently working in or the location. It can be a store across multiple locations that they're available to work in. And they're also crowdsourcing. The employee can set their availability, and also if they need to swap a shift because, as you said, Nick, not all the schools are open, or, they need to attend something with the children, or they need to attend an appointment, being able to post a shift or swap a shift with employees means that I'm not losing that income because I'm looking after my family. So an employer that really adopts, a digital workplace like WorkJam and the platform and what we offer is really an advantage for the employees. And I think that will then drive a higher level of retention, a higher level of, product knowledge, and, certainly reduce things like recruitment costs. But we're going to see flexibility become really, really critical, not just through the pandemic, but I think, as we said, moving forward in the way businesses operate and retain their workforce.
No, absolutely, and that's an interesting point. It's not just about the employees having the freedom to swap a shift and making their life easier and the work-life balance, but there's also a very strong ROI and business case for that, as you touched on, with lower turnover, therefore lower recruitment costs, higher level of engagement, higher output by the employee. So there's actually a very strong ROI and flow-on effect that has. So it does tie back to the business quite well.
Yeah, and a WorkJam also, it's not just around scheduling and flexibility. There is communication, engagement. There's task management. There's recognition of whether that's service recognition or recognition because you've completed a training session, or recognition of great customer service. Learning management tools are within the digital platform. So there's a lot that actually is in a digital platform like WorkJam that enables businesses to really save money, but more importantly, streamline the operations and make it simpler for the workforce and the employees to do their job. Having one application to go, we see all too often, the various types of different forms of communication, different, intranets, or I've got to go do the back office to get onto a computer. The infrastructure just isn't in some of the retail stores or the distribution centres or the healthcare, but having one digital platform like WorkJam that enables employees to do their job, build employee engagement and recognition, and the benefit of flexibility through an open shift marketplace is an absolute strategic advantage for businesses going forward. Absolutely.
Everyone's on their phone, aren't they? Let's be honest, 24/7 these days. Everyone's tied to their phone. Everyone's got all of the apps and is pretty, tech savvy these days, aren't they? So it's really not a huge learning curve or anything like that to get an uptake with a program and an application like WorkJam, for example, anyway. Yeah.
And as I said earlier, if you've got a digital relationship with your friends and family, why would you not have one with your employer where you're spending certainly a significant amount of hours and your time? And actually, a lot of your friends and network are in the workplace that you're working. So, being able to chat with them, message them, learn with them on the WorkJam's digital platform, it certainly makes a lot more efficient for both the employer and the employee.
Yeah, and it's going to be a really interesting opening in the phases in the first 6 and then 12 and then 24 months, right, Andrew? I mean, it really is going to change. We watched it from about March the 27th through today. And some of when you open, or for the essential stores, when you're open, these processes need to take place in March and April, but then those stopped and had to change to something else. And now when you open, if you're in the restaurants, this is now what you need to open, but that might change tomorrow. So we're all trying to figure it out at once. And I think I love the part about the recognition. I think we automatically go into the mode to solve the problem. We go into the mode of we worry about the rules and the regulations and the whole health and safety. But we forget in the meantime that some of these, for grocers and the ones that were deemed essential, these people, they've been working a lot of hours, and it's been really hard because it's not the same working pattern, right? So being able to not only talk to them, like upload videos to say thank you. I mean, can you imagine how fun that would be for an executive team to do a Zoom thank you to some of their frontline workers that have been out there for the last 3 months? There's just so many things around the reward and the recognition and being able to feel that connection that you have with your employees.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we all like to know, who we're working for. and not just the values of the organisation, but who the leaders are. And we're seeing that with our customers, where communication of particularly in the grocery business, with what was happening with the when the supermarkets were being stripped bare, giving the employees updates on stock outages, giving the employees a thank you for the efforts they're putting in, leaders talking about the measures that they're putting in place to protect employees. And I think, again, the powerful side of it is the employees being able to provide comments back or messages back to leadership on what they're seeing in the front line. All too often, I certainly know in my retail career, some of the best ideas come from the people on the shop floor. So having a digital platform like WorkJam to get those ideas off the shop floor, into the support office to be worked through and then delivered back to the business. Employees that see that feel very respected in the way that they were received by their leadership. And at the same time, we're seeing it with the businesses that have shut down. What's been most important through this challenging time, and we talk a lot about mental health, but an employee who has lost their job but actually can still be connected with the friends and the employees that they work with, their peers, their leaders, that staying connected has been very important. And we've seen that, not just a business sense, but a real caring sense through the platform with businesses such as Village Cinema, where they've been closed. And talking to them, last week, they're now gearing up to reopen, but a very different cinema experience, with social distancing in the cinema, the way that they serve food, is different. So they're having to re-engineer over 100 processes. And they're doing that by creating videos and sharing them on the WorkJam platform.
And so that means my job is changing, right? So when I come back as the frontline employee, I'm not sliding right back into the same job that I've always performed. Now I have new things to think about, and you're almost onboarding your whole team is coming on to brand new processes and new ways of working, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we're seeing it in North America, but a lot more screens going up. I'm now serving behind a screen. It's predominantly moving to contactless and less cash, and then the way I hand over product is very different. The way I serve is very different. Being able to get these messages across in the old traditional form of paper is not where it needs to be nowadays for a business to be, really comfortable in the way they're going to reoperate. Having that information via a digital platform such as a video explaining the why to employees and is really, I think, what's going to make businesses come out of this pandemic in a lot stronger position with a digital platform, not just from a business point of view, but also from a relationship point of view with their employees.
That's great. Well, Andrew and Nick, I really appreciate your time this morning. I know everybody on the call really learned a lot of great, valuable information. So thank you to both of you. I really appreciate you taking the morning out with us today to be able to help us in sharing this information with everyone. So for everyone else, again, I really want to thank you for attending and Retail Responds. So there is so much more information that we can have with you guys. So you see that we have the webinars, we have the blogs, we have key updates. You're going to see all of those on the Retail Responds webpage. Please check there for more information and stay tuned, because we absolutely want to have your ideas. So if you've got something that you'd like to hear us invite a speaker on or invite a customer on, please get a hold of Andrew, to Nick or myself, and we'll get this out to everyone to make it happen. So please stay tuned. We'll have another webinar. Nick and Andrew, thank you so much. And to everyone that attended, really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, you guys.